part of the reason that I know that it comes from being so young is because it's sort of pre-verbal. It's sort of it's very automatic, and it's a thing that I couldn't justify, right? Like even this woman knows that she's not done with her plate, and that's crazy to let somebody take away the plate of food that she paid for that she's not finished with, right? Like instantly she knows, like,
yeah, she feels it. Yeah.
I can't believe I'm like letting that happen. But the thing that comes up in the moment is it's such a little person inside being like, don't say no, don't push back. I absorb the discomfort my direction. I make sure that the vectors of discomfort point to me so that none of them point to you. I almost collect the discomfort to keep it off of other people.
Yeah, right.
And it's so reflexive. It's such a deeply ingrained dynamic that it takes over. At first, when I arranged my living room like this, there were different chairs, so it definitely was a little bit more austere.
Yes.
But Connor was like, no, it looks like a dentist's office. And he made me put all the furniture back.
Got it.
And I was like, but we could have a whole, it was before the podcast. I was like, we can have a whole content wall, like right here. And he was like, no, it looks like a dentist's office.
Like this is the content wall. Yeah. No, it's great.
Now he thinks it's his idea.
Oh, really? That's actually the secret of so much.
Tell me everything.
Let people think it's their idea. Do it with my kids. Do it with my husband. Just in life, if you have a really good idea, but it's hard to convince them, then you have to change your strategy a little bit to just put things in place to where they go, so I have this great idea. And then you inside go, I know, I gave it to you. Yeah. So you gave Connor the idea.
The full Christopher Nolan over here incepting. Your family.
Exactly.
Smart, Jess.
Welcome back, you guys. So happy to have you here on this couch with us. My name is Jessica Hover.
I'm Lane Dealing-Cherland, and this is Very Good Enough, a podcast from Very Good Mothers Club.
And today we are talking about people-pleasing, and this is really happening moments after the last one we just did, which was about sharing. And so we're just like in a flow, and we're going to keep flowing.
Yeah, we came to this concept because I posted a reel that a lot of people saw last week.
They sure did.
And what I said was toddler sharing is actually people pleasing. And then I expanded on that idea in a way that I stand by. And the episode before this, we super unpacked what I mean by that. So I'm not going to hash back over that. But we sort of teased this episode at the end of that one. We really focused on the sharing. And I talked about what I mean by sharing is people pleasing because, of course, I mean something nuanced and long form by that.
For sure.
But if that piques your interest in either a rage way or a happy way, feel free to go find out what we're talking about there. But we kind of saved the like more people pleasing topic for right now because we want to talk about that as like grown-ups, you know? And of course it like relates to children, but like just jumping way over to the like, and also us.
Yeah. Well, I think you also got a lot of feedback from parents who felt pressure to teach their very, very young children how to share. And then as you spoke, they were kind of having the light bulb moment of, oh, whoa, I have actually been forced my whole life to be a people pleaser under the guise of being a sharer, right? And so you're the one who's kind of defending the toddlers to be like, don't put that pressure on them. That's not theirs to carry. And so now I think talking about people pleasing, we can talk about the toddler stuff, but I think it's the mom. I think it's the parents. We'll just say the parents. And you could read that one comment that we just read on the last episode because I think that would launch us very much into what we're feeling.
Because a lot of the hubbub. I mean, when I say a lot of people saw it, I mean like I had a viral reel last week. It was like
1 million. So we've gotten
1,000,006.
1,000,006.
Thank you for saying it over and over.
Yes.
And for celebrating with me. But also it's been just it garnered a lot of conversation. This woman left a comment describing how people-pleasing shows up for her, and I thought it was so powerful. I was so grateful that she shared. So she said how this shows up in adulthood. In the gym, when someone asks me if I'm done using my weights when I'm resting between sets, I just automatically say, sure, you can use them, while my inner child screams and cries, and I passive-aggressively wait until they're done to go back to what I was doing. Same with people cutting in line at the grocery store. Or when I'm talking to someone and someone else comes up to talk to them, I stop mid-conversation to let the other person talk. I have difficulty telling a waiter I'm not done with my plate yet when they try to take it away too early. Or quote unquote sharing anything in the workspace environment, from like printer access to supplies. I just thought that was like a great list of times that shows up in life, because I feel quite a number of those, and a lot of people don't, and that's like great, cool for you. But like also many of the people around you are like, it's not that they are consciously being like, yeah, waiter, take my food away.
Right.
It's that something freezes inside and just can't say, I'm actually not done with that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned in the last episode how sometimes that starts for us in the stage of early childhood, where it's like celebrated from adults that we have been not disruptive or not stood up for ourselves or not have been fussy when the thing we wanted was taken from us. And then that kind of develops us into an adult who identifies as like, I won't cause a stir. I will be so easy to be around that you will possibly forget I'm even here. You, gym person, you won't even know I'm here. Coworker, you won't even know I'm here. And then inside we're here and we do not feel good.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting. Like what we're looking for is a sense of wholeness so that we can share as a person who is whole, who is here. I would love to give you half of my drink. Okay, great. We're now both enjoying a drink and I feel like my needs are met, which is what she talked about in the last episode. Everybody's needs being met, and you feel like yours are too. And I definitely have felt that in the world of working with doctors lately in this whole cancer experience. It's like this thing in me wants to be such a good patient. I want to be so good that you guys really enjoy being my doctor.
Yeah.
And then nothing works unless I am not very enjoyable, unless I am standing up for myself over and over and over again and being, being the like calling again. Hey, you said you would do this thing and you didn't do it. Hey, me again. Now showing up in your office. Hey, I'm here again. You didn't do the thing you said you would do. And then even expressing like, this is super frustrating and I really like you guys and I really trust this office and you have not done the things you said you're going to do. And kind of trying to figure out in me, like, why would I need to be the patient that everybody loves working with? Like, if that worked, if that was a tool that actually worked and my needs were met and my cancer was dealt with, then I would want to do that just because I enjoy being with people in a sense of like peace and flow.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, if the doctor ends up really annoyed by me as a patient, but my cancer is being treated, that's fine. They can think I'm, whatever they think. And so, so it's interesting. Like when it comes to a server and food, that's so relatable. And yet there's something in us that needs to overcome just our fear of being perceived weirdly or misunderstood or.
Yeah. But part of the reason that I know that it comes from being so young is because it's sort of pre-verbal. It's sort of, it's very automatic and it's a thing that I couldn't justify, right? Like even this woman knows that she's not done with her plate and that's crazy to let somebody take away the plate of food that she paid for that she's not finished with, right? Like instantly she knows, like,
she feels it. Yeah.
I can't believe I'm like letting that happen. But the thing that comes up in the moment is it's such a little person inside being like, don't say no, don't push back, don't make it, I absorb the discomfort my direction. I make sure that the vectors of discomfort point to me so that none of them point to you. I almost collect the discomfort to keep it off of other people. Yeah, right. And it's so reflexive. It's such a deeply ingrained dynamic that it takes over.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a connection with it and codependency in my own life sometimes too, is like this sense of like, I don't want to disrupt you because I'm actually doing better if you're fine with me.
Yes.
And so if you're not fine with me and I'm not entirely fine with me, then this is not good. And how are we going to recover? And I hear about it. We actually had a really good conversation in the mom community in Very Good Mothers Club of like, new moms, new babies. The mom's totally exhausted. She's doing everything.
Right.
Husband, baby daddy, willing to help, but the mom doesn't want to ask anything of him because she doesn't, what we got to the bottom of, she doesn't feel like she'll be able to be okay if he's also tired and not well. So she's like putting herself out by resisting help that's there, available, and like really appropriate for dad to want to help take care of the baby he made. But she's like, well, I can't ask for you to be awake in the night. I can't ask for you to figure out how to soothe a crying baby because I won't be okay if you are tired on the other side or frustrated on the other side or not well. And so then it's basically like then two things have to happen. She has to be okay to ask for him to help, but then she might also have to ask for him to take care of himself and say like, hey, whenever you're not doing well, you kind of put that at me, like I'm supposed to fix your problem. And then it becomes this thing of like, no, I'm having to stand up for myself twice. And I don't even think I can stand up for myself once. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does. And it feels so scary. And it's so related to like however caregiving went in your home as like a little person. There was somebody around who it was very important that that person stayed okay.
Maybe mom.
Probably mom. Probably mom or dad, right? But there was like, what's really important here, whether it's because that person gets scary or because that person gets too tired or is depressed and sort of disappears, there's a thing about the child knowing that they need to keep something good in the environment. Something in the environment has to stay good in order for their needs to get met, right? So then that little child gets really good at tending to whatever that thing is. And if you have this, you can probably immediately know what's happening there, right? I'm pointing back and forth between the triangle of camera and me and Jessica.
We both understand that.
There's something in the early environment that creates that shape in you. It's a dynamic, right? I'm constantly talking about how everything is rooted in your relationship with your own child. Like that was true of you when you were a child. And we can believe that everybody comes by these patterns innocently. Everybody's doing their best. And some of these patterns that we came by innocently are not working for us. They're less than what we need them to be. And this is one of them of like, I learned how to get my needs met by making other people okay. And we talked in the last episode, but I'll just like draw this example in because I think it's another useful one, is like a lot of the time children get approval by being the one who doesn't engage in conflict, even when someone else has wronged them. Someone else pulls something out of their hands and they just let that person have it. And the parent's like, oh, thank you for not having a tantrum. Oh, thank you for not crying. Oh, thank you so much. That helps me so much. You're helping me so much. You're such a good little girl because you never cause the problem, right? Or like, this group of kids is playing together always, and some of them are really assertive and some of them just have to go along with it because if there's conflict, it's just like too much for dad. Like dad cannot deal with the sound of kids fighting, and he's like, who's gonna give here, right? And you're being like, okay, we're gonna avoid that loud thing by making sure that this thing goes well in this group so that we just hold it together, and then you just get to be the good one in the class. And for a lot of us, good meant I don't get attention. I don't draw attention to myself. I try to make sure that like there are no messes. I even check on other people to make sure that other people are doing fine so that nothing gnarly happens. And I just like keep things rolling for the adult, or I keep things rolling with my older sibling who's more volatile than me. Like it just goes better as long as that person is happy and we kind of shape around that dynamic, right? So now we're just one piece of that dynamic, but we're floating out in the world this shape. So we match two people who are the corresponding shape, or we just like take this position, even when it's a waiter, being like, my job is to make everything easy. This person's here now. I'm going to make sure it's convenient for them. Oh, I don't want them to have to come back around to get my thing. Everybody else is done. So I'll just go ahead and not finish the food that I want and paid for. So that it's easy for the waiter, so that everybody can leave all at the same time, so that there's the check. And of course, in life, there are lots of times to notice what's good for the group. Give up a little bit of what you want to like keep things rolling in a group. Like we live in society and that's how stuff works, of course. But who I'm talking to and about are those of us who are taking up way less space than we appropriately could. Everybody's fine for you to finish your food most of the time when you're at a restaurant. We're all there to enjoy ourselves. People are happy to get another glass and just keep talking while you keep eating. The waiter's job is to come back and collect the rest of the plates when they're done. He's just trying to make the table nice so that you're not all sitting there enjoying your second glass of wine with dirty dishes around. Like, he doesn't want to take your plate. And if he does, he's a bad waiter and you should tip him less.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's being overly aggressive about wanting to turn over his table. That's a him problem. That's not a you problem.
Yes.
But there are those of us who feel that assertive thing come and we're like, oh, great, I know how to link to that. I'm the right shape for making this easy for that assertive thing.
Yeah. And we second guess ourselves all the time. Waiter shows up and they're like, are you done? And you're like, oh, I guess I am actually, because you're here now. And you're like,
It must be time. It's time
That's
for me to
not
be
how
done.
this works. Are you done with those weights? I guess so, because you arrived and I'm not sure what's going on inside of me. I don't really pay attention to that too much.
Right. We let the outside thing tell us what time it is or when we should be.
Yeah. And we do it in marriage too. We do. I'm feeling this way, and then the other person. I'm not assuming your partners are like this, but you just hear of these stories of people being like, "Well, that doesn't make sense," or that it wasn't really like that, and then leaving the person who's actually experiencing the pain to be like, oh, okay, I guess never mind. Now I just feel confused about my experience. I'm not really sure what's wrong, but I feel confused about what's wrong because someone's telling me that this isn't really. Yep. It's all the moms who go into labor and then are like, but I'm probably not in labor. Sorry, doctor, this is me. Sorry, doctor. Sorry, I'm here to disrupt your day working at the hospital. Oh, I am in labor. Oh, well, that's validating. Thank you. I'm like, okay, come on. But that's ridiculous. For sure. Yes. I had a cute moment happen yesterday. Eloise and I were watching one of the Harry Potter movies, and one of the characters can see these creatures that the other characters can't see, but one girl could also see them. And someone says to Harry, like, oh, you're not crazy. I see them too. And Eloise laughed so hard. And she goes, just because he's the only one who can see them doesn't mean he would need to feel crazy about that. And
she's magic.
Right?
She's amazing.
I was like, oh my gosh. She just like, to her, it's like, that's so silly that anyone would even assume he might be crazy because he's the only one who sees something.
Yeah.
But we do that in life all the time.
But that's such a good example of like the antidote to people pleasing. It's that she's demonstrating what the whole position would be. For her, she's just not broken. For us, it would be what the healed position is, right?
I hope she stays like that.
Well, she's well on her way, right? If she's going to be
we'll
9,
receive it. I know.
a lot of that dynamic is set. Yay. Oh my gosh, yay.
But so cute.
But what she's doing is she's valuing her own via Harry, right? She's saying like, no, his experience is plenty. He's having an experience and that's plenty.
And that's enough.
My experience is as real and as valuable as anybody else's experience.
Yeah.
And again, because people lose their minds when you talk about any level of fairness.
Sure.
Not more. Her experience is not more important than everybody else's, but it's not less important than everybody else's. I've been in a job where I've been at the post office a lot, and the number of, it's almost always like just a bit older than middle-aged women who have a big chunk of boxes or whatever that they need. They got a thing that's going to take a minute at the post office. They stood in line at the post office like all the rest of us. They take their turn at the window, and they are abundantly and exorbitantly sorry that the rest of us have to wait for them. They might even leave. I've seen people leave before their errand is done because, oh, you know what? There's a really big line. Don't worry about that part. Behind her. Even though she's using a public service that her taxes pay for, that she lined up for, her experience. And I've also heard men, I don't mean to be so gendered about this, but man, it happens a lot.
But this was the real thing.
Yeah. Big old men behind me huffing and puffing because they just arrived in a long line and there's a lady at the front doing a bunch of stuff and it's just like, ugh, he only has one thing and he just wants to get his one thing done. I just have one and that lady has a ton. Even though she stood in line like everyone else. And people get huffy and they make other people in front of them in the very fair line getting the actual thing. That's what the post office is for. Right. So you can mail a ton of boxes. If you only had one, you might just put it into a mailbox, right? But you got a ton of them. So that's what it's for. Right. But this person is super sorry and a lot of other people are just super huffy, frustrated. But like it's appropriate for her to take up that space. But she just is like, it's like burning inside because the shape of her is now designed. She like formed in this way that makes her feel like, oh no, I should never take anybody's time. Like I should make my thing smaller so that other people, even here's a little tiny one. I make a lot of really beautiful dinners in our home, right? Like I make most of the dinners. I feed Connor. I learned how to cook when I got married because I wanted to impress this boy, this 24-year-old boy who would have been happy with anything. And I was like, I need to learn how to make beautiful food. And I used to let him pick which bowl he wants or which plate he wants. I would be in the kitchen for way too long. I now make way briefer meals.
Okay.
I would be there forever. And then I would take them into the living room and be like, which plate do you want? Even though I know which plate I want of the like pretty equivalently good food, but I like a little bit more of this.
Yeah.
And I would be like, here you go. And if you pick the plate I wanted, I would be like, well, I would just
Oh my gosh.
hand it over, which is not a thing that my husband would ever want for me.
No,
it
he would want
benefited
you
him
to.
in no
Yeah.
way. I just had this thing of being like, I'm going to be the one who gives up this tiny little thing that I want.
Yeah.
When I can just be like, I want that bowl. Can you sit over there? And he's like, sure. Thanks for the food.
Wow. Would you find that getting older made this a little easier for you? Because in my experience, for sure it did. It has. I still struggle.
Yeah.
But I think like there is something to kind of choosing suffering over and over and over and kind of realizing it as it's happening that I don't have to suffer like this and I could have a better experience right now. And just time helps. And also maybe changing your circle of people who are impacting the way you live.
Definitely.
To people who are more inviting of your feelings and encouraging, and watch the waiter take your food when you're not done and watching your face turn red and them being like, hold on, waiter, excuse me, bring that back.
And the waiter's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Here you go. Totally
exactly.
happy. Yes. Definitely just experience.
Yes.
And seeing other people live differently over and over and over and being like, they seem like they're enjoying their life more than I am. And they also don't seem like they're hurting other people. Because the feeling inside is like it's going to hurt people if I take up, like I'm taking something, like I'm taking the better one from Connor, so I'm selfish if I take the better plate. Even though it's not an objectively better plate, it's just what I want. It's 2 plates of equal food, right? So like watching other people behave like, oh, dang it, I actually really want something. I wonder if I can get his attention. Calling the waiter back, adding to just because they want it. I used to think there needed to be like a reason for me to inconvenience, quote unquote, anybody. But yeah, watching other people do it differently and being like, that caused no problems and that person got what they want. That seems really cool.
Right.
Which I do attribute to age because I've just seen it a few more times.
Yeah.
I also, there are things that are more important to me finally in my life. Like I want some things in a big way.
Sure.
Where before I was like trying to just not want stuff.
Yeah.
And so my priorities have finally shifted over time of being like, I just only have this life though.
Right.
So if I just keep opting out of this life forever, I'm just going to die and not have enjoyed the things that I want. And I think I might be trustworthy that like my wants actually are not going to hurt anybody or take from anybody, except for probably in some small ways. And then I'll just say sorry.
Sure.
And I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think
that's good.
There was something about like, am I actually just like, are my needs just such a vortex that if I say yes to them, it's going to swallow everything? Like, am I holding something at bay here and really starting to learn? And some of that has come through therapy and different kinds of healing, like very directly of just dealing with some of my absolutely most core gaps or twistings inside of like, oh, I think I got that twisted and I've just been living with this twisted this whole time. So we'll just untwist that. Yeah. And whoa, actually, I think maybe I am trustworthy and maybe I do take care of people. And I've now proven to myself over a lot of time that like I'm not this hungry ghost. Yes. And so, and I would attribute almost all of that to age and experience. Yeah.
That's so cool. I think for me, along with it, you're reminding me, you ever have that feeling where, well, maybe it happens more like this. Someone's upset at you for something they didn't tell you about. And you're like, wait, but I didn't read your mind. If you would have just told me, I would have done the right thing. Yes. I like you so much. I would do the right thing. That happened to me enough times where I was like, whoa, I think I'm doing that. I think I wish someone else would guess my needs.
Oh, wow.
You know, because when we're quiet like that, what we hope the waiter will do is go, oh, do you want you know what? You should finish it. Do you want to finish this?
There's actually still a lot of food over here. Are you?
Yeah. Or the person at the gym, the reason why we're feeling those feelings of resentment towards them is because we wish they would guess that actually we weren't done. Could you please give that back to me? Right. I need it. And so just realizing when people are frustrated at me for something, but I didn't know that they needed the thing I didn't give them. So then they're, well, you didn't do this. And I'm like, if you just tell me, I will do it. I like you so much. I will do that thing because I care about you. Please don't make me guess your needs. Please tell them to me. Realizing that I end up doing that by being a people pleaser.
Absolutely.
And not communicating to Sean whatever I wish he would do, but just hoping that he'll guess how to do it right. It's like too much pressure. Yeah. So then ultimately, I guess it's like then our words become a very loving gesture. To communicate the need invites the person to meet them, which is a relief, especially when you're on the receiving end of someone going, oh, it would really make me feel safe and loved and wanted if you would treat me like this. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. Or I get really frustrated when you don't clean this up here in this setting. And then you're, oh my gosh, thank you. I didn't even think about it. It wasn't that I didn't like you or care about you, which clearly it's like being internalized that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that also helps, is just kind of going through enough things and then realizing, oh, none of this is working.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, other people also want to get it right in relationships, just like I do. So me staying tiny, keeping all my needs inside, keeping everything that I want and need a secret. It's actually like disabling other people from being in like a whole healthy, flowing relationship with me, because I refuse to equip them to love me well.
Right.
Or like be my equal. Frankly, there's also like a weird pride in being like, I'm the only one who can help. I'm clearly the only one who understands the needs here. So
I'll meet them all.
I'll meet them all, and I won't have any because what? I don't think I've ever stepped it out so far as to actually think, because you're not capable of meeting needs.
Right.
But really there's kind of like an odd implicitness in there of like, I don't trust you to be a big enough person to handle my very normal people needs.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah. It's really life inhibiting to live this way.
Yeah, it is. And it seems like it comes back to your idea of like it's a practice, like a day-to-day practice, like yoga, of using your voice, feeling your feelings. I mean, I've talked about eating disorder stuff before, but it's that thing of at one point in my life, I didn't know in my body how to connect a sensation of hunger and the need to eat. And then when I was full, those like broke because I had broken them because I had ignored them so long and mistreated my body. And so what I did was I was with a best friend, Becca, she listens. Becca Brigleb was her name. Now she's married. And basically she was so wonderful and understanding. And she would sit with me at meals and be like, okay, so we're hungry now. We're going to eat this amount of food. After we're done eating, we're not going anywhere, because my habit had been to go somewhere and do something about that. And so we would just like drink a tea or whatever. We're going to sit and we're going to digest it. And then we would eat snacks. And I basically just mimicked her. We lived in like in a dorm facility and we could do this together.
Yeah.
Super understanding. But what it did was it like woke back up my natural hunger and fullness, and, you know, and then even to use exercise appropriately, like exercise isn't a punishment. And actually, look, now it's like a social activity. Now it's connecting. We're going for a walk together. How sweet. It was like fixing broken things.
Yeah.
And with using our voice and standing up for ourselves and being kind people who have boundaries. Oh, thank you so much for offering to take my food. I'm not ready for that yet, but thank you. You know, how kind, how awesome, how good of an interaction that was. And you still got your food back and finished it. Yeah. Practicing over and over again, even trusting your own wants, trusting your desires, trusting the people in your life to meet your needs. It becomes much more of a flow, to the point where at some point in your life, someone might actually describe you as a really healthy individual who doesn't even look like a people pleaser. They'd be like, oh, really? I just thought you were kind and loving, but I totally see how you're taking up space and setting up, you know, appropriate boundaries. And so, just like connecting the pieces that when we were little, those people might have done the best they could and still taught us that we should do everything we can to be nothing.
I love that example of hunger and feeding so much, because I think that's like a lot of like people pleasing / codependent stuff. We're talking about kind of a big tangle of things here in one big old ball, but a lot of it is sort of emotionally anorexic. Like it is that thing of like, something is out of control somewhere, so I will so manage and control this thing inside that I will create a sense of safety and power for myself. And when you do that for long enough, you absolutely destroy your instincts. Like they become, you're like, what do you mean? We get that blank feeling, we get that frozen feeling, we get that impulsive feeling. And gosh, I just think that healing from eating disorders is so powerful and so beautiful. The idea that you get to come back into contact with the part of you that knows how to be hungry and knows how to feed, because we know how to do that. We come here knowing how to do that. Yeah. And it's just such a restoration to a natural space. And I wonder if you have thoughts about that in like an emotional sense, like if we can use that as a direct analogy somewhere, like for people who are feeling so totally in the throes of this people-pleasing stuff, like what they could do emotionally to do that same kind of thing of like, I just need to know again when I'm hungry and when I'm full and how to meet that hunger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a hard thing about eating disorder recovery, which is the same hard thing about this, is that you can't go without food. So it's unlike a drug or alcohol or something where you're like, okay, well, I will just build my life around abstinence from this thing and I will stay away from wherever this is for a time so that I can be well.
Yeah.
You can't do that with food. And also with this, you really can't. You really need to learn healthy ways of relating to people and using your voice. And you're going to be around people constantly. So to try and be abstinent from any moment when you might need to use your voice and take up space is not going to work. And one of the things that we can do, and it's similar to like what a nutritionist would have you do, is you can start writing down little bits and pieces about the day. It could be really small, similar to like if you meet with a nutritionist and they're like, whoa, this is such a mess right now. Could you just go through your day and document what you ate? I just need to know what you ate. Like that's it.
Yeah, don't change anything.
No,
just
nothing.
Try to get a picture of what's
just let me know what's
happening
going on and then meet with me again. Emotionally, it's quite similar. It's grab your phone, make a little note in there, and just as the day goes on, you could even set timers, or you could put a penny in your shoe, and anytime you feel it move, you think about it. What is going on inside of me? Yeah, I've done it. What's going on inside of me? And it could be nothing. It could be I actually feel a bit numb, or I feel so distracted by all the needs in my life. I guess my word right now is distracted. And then you might find your word is exhausted, or you might find your word is helpless or alone, or you might find I had a lot of joy in this hour. Oh, cool. That's great. And then what you might do like a few days later is, so I had another joy hour again. Okay, so what's happening in joy hour? Oh, joy hour is with my friend. We go for a walk. We push the strollers. Or I show up to this call, Zoom call has been really life-giving for some of these moms who are quite isolated. Or listen to a podcast and do the dishes. And I love the feeling of a mess turning into something clean, right? Just like, what is it? What is it that made you feel a little spark of something?
Yeah.
And then you'll also start to realize like, what is making you real sweaty when you have to speak up a little bit? Is it in your workplace? It could be using boundaries with your kid who's having a tantrum. You see this all the time. A mom who doesn't feel she has the power in her body to say, ow, that hurts me when you do that to me. Or I don't want to stand anymore and hold you. I want to sit. You don't even have to change it yet. Just make little notes of what's doing that in you, because that's huge progress. Because usually what we do when we become so unable to speak up is we've lost our ability to know what's going on inside of ourselves. Did our partner say something really mean to us? Notice it. Don't immediately do the thing you do where you jump to the next thing and go, well, he's really tired and the kids were being super loud. Yeah. And to be fair, his mom talked to him like that.
Right.
Nope. That's not, nope.
Just see it.
Just see it. Did that hurt?
Just know about it.
All right. That hurt. Make a note. Because what we're going to do is get to a point where we can say, I love you so much. I actually totally understand why you said that thing to me.
Yeah.
And I will not let anyone treat me like that. And what's really special that I know you agree with me on is we would never let our daughters be talked to like that, ever. So we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But to get to that point means starting way back at, what's making you go to bed feeling kind of crushed? What happened? What was it? Something. You're not crazy. Something happened.
Absolutely.
And it's okay if you're the only one who sees the creature, right?
Your experiences are real.
Yes. And so, yeah, I think just what therapists would tell us is begin with just some documentation. Words, like writing down words, means you're grabbing what's here. I'm touching my head for those who are listening, and putting it somewhere. It takes the kind of spinning confusion. There's so much going on. I don't really know what I feel. So much. You've probably felt this. We're similar in this way of like, what do you feel? I don't totally know.
I don't know. What do you want me to feel? What's going to get us through this conversation?
Yes.
Yes. And the writing it down piece is so skippable, but it's so important because what we're experiencing is that we have a distorted perspective. So if we're trying to ask our brains to just be remembering, we're going to remember it wrong. What we're struggling with correctly labeling our experiences. So if you're expecting your brain to just store that for you without actually having it down, you're going to it's going to be very interpreted, and you're going to forget about some things that were actually like, that was the actual pattern.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of running it through a filtering system that's already existing. So like that's the importance of just noting it down, even very sparsely. You don't need to be like writing essays about all this stuff if you don't want to, but just like just trying to connect a sensation with like what happened before that sensation. And so that you can look at it, and so that there's some kind of a pattern, because there absolutely is a pattern. I guarantee that there are things in your life that you're going to be like, wow, every time that happens, I feel this thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it can be really something that colors your life beautifully when you go, okay, every time at my job, my boss, whenever they ask me to give a presentation in front of the whole group, it ruins my whole day. I have to come down for an hour afterwards. I feel so stressed. The week before was a nightmare. What we're not saying is, okay, figure out a way to entirely overcome that experience. What might actually be helpful is going, I don't really want to do that anymore. I think I need to meet with somebody and say, I don't think I'm your person for this presentation role. Any chance we can switch me? And then they might go, well, we can actually not.
Yeah.
Then you go, okay, so is this a job I want?
But we could switch this presentation to Zoom. Would it be easier for you if everybody wasn't in the room with you? Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why I make that note is because I'm not trying to set an expectation of like, take all of your inner turmoil and go to the other side where none of that exists. That's not really it. It's actually trying to figure out what is your shape. Lane's all about like, we have a shape, right? And so it's figuring out what is mine. What do I love? What brings joy to my life? For me, I love being with people, and the public speaking thing is very fun for me. But I would feel so bad if I invited someone else into that role thinking she'll have just as much fun as me. And then you learn that it ruined her whole week.
Right.
No. There's probably something else for her.
I have an example that's like
tell me.
a very like mid step between that. That's not your whole life change, but it was like, I learned in my most recent job that I like realized that I have this reflex where when someone asks me for clarification about something, I feel immediately accused. I immediately hear from them that I've done something wrong, and I get super defensive. And even when it's just like, it was especially like this person I was working with didn't really have any oversight into how I was spending my time. We work remotely. And so it was like, oh, that's so interesting that took so long, was the thing that was coming up often of like, what she was saying was, can you walk me through the steps of this process? Clearly, I didn't understand the project I gave you. Teach me about it. What I'm hearing is you didn't work hard enough or fast enough.
Or something.
And I can't not hear it that way. And I can't not hear it that way. I didn't fix that. I have not solved that. I don't know where that dynamic has come from in my life of like people asking me questions feels like being questioned. I'm still working on that one. But I told her this is how I feel always, because we would get a little heated. So she actually did a great job of like being like, what is that? We got to work through what is happening here. And got around to being like, okay, great. Maybe if you can just pad it when you're going to ask me that, like we can just both know that I have something funky about that, and I'm going to try to figure that out. But in the meantime, if you have clarifying questions about my job, could you just
remind me what you actually think of me?
So she's gotten into the habit of being like, these parts have gone super well. I have questions about these parts. Can we talk about that? And that at least helps me be like, I'm not filling in this whole crazy story all of a sudden, because the email starts with this went well, this went well, this went well. And then it's not even the affirmation that I need, but just to know, okay, I just need to know, from a place are you upset about my project or not?
Yeah, right.
No, you're not upset about my project at all. You need to understand something about the work that you're paying for. So reasonable.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are very mid ways to deal with this.
That plays out in parenting all the time between partners who are like, whenever you say this, it makes me feel like you think I'm doing a bad job. And then they're like, oh, no, I'm actually saying it because I'm super duper anxious about our child's development in this way or that way. And so I just want to know what's going on here. And it also is really good because if you are actually concerned about something that is like, this has the potential to be a conflict, then you also would go into it differently than this one of like sandwiching, like, here's what I see going well. Can you help me understand this piece?
Yeah. Really good. I also like if you could just pick one thing, you know, like, so take your list and then notice like a pattern in your list. And then you can be like, this is the one thing that I'm going to work on. at meal times, I'm really overwhelmed. I actually really need these children out of this kitchen. My husband is always home when I'm making dinner.
Sure.
He could always minimally keep them out of the kitchen.
Yeah, right.
It makes me freak the fuck out when I have to cut vegetables and there might be a child under my feet. I think I'm going to kill them.
Yes.
Like I need,
Yeah.
that's such a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Everybody could do that for you, right? Like that's so simple.
Yeah.
And just being like, I can see this pattern now because I wrote it down. I'm only going to do this thing.
And what doesn't matter is if I am super comfortable with my kids in the kitchen with me. In fact, I bring a little stool. I don't, by the way. I don't. I'm the first one. I bring a little stool and I have my kids fake cut things. That doesn't matter. If you're freaking out like this, that's all you need. That's the information. That's it. There you have it. So it would be nonsense for anyone near you or yourself even to suggest, but Nancy's really good at having her kids in the kitchen.
It's actually really helpful for child development. If they,
Yeah,
it doesn't
really.
matter how many reels
It doesn't matter
because
what we're
influencer mom
Thank
telling you
Yeah.
that what your kid really needs is to be right next to you, doing everything you're doing. If that's not what
if that's
you
making you
need,
explode. Yeah.
then you can support your children's development in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful.
Anytime you change one of the dynamics in your life, all of the other dynamics also shift, right? So you picking a thing, I need these kids to not be in the kitchen while I'm making dinner. That's literally one thing. I can find the word. I can write down a script to say, husband, I desperately need your help with something. It doesn't work for me for this thing to happen. Will you please help me in this way?
Yeah.
You starting to say, I need this thing, and then experiencing how much better it feels when you say, I needed that, and you get that one thing, that is going to change the dynamic of your life. It's not going to instantly transform every moment, but it's going to actually put you into a different universe.
Yeah.
Because you've been living in a universe where you never say what you need and you never get what you need. And you're emptier and hungrier than you need to be all the time. And now you live in a new world where in at least one way, the dynamic is I express what I need, I got fed. And once you've experienced that, everything else shifts just a little bit. And your husband shifts just a little bit because the dynamic between you is a little bit different. All of a sudden he knows what you need. He can meet your expectation and you get what you need. That's a totally different world than what you were living in before, even though it's just around this one thing. Your children experience you as a little more solid because there's a line that they're not allowed to cross, a totally reasonable line.
Yeah.
They have a whole house to be in. And your toddler may feel like they need to break that baby gate down, but hopefully you have a partner who's able to really hold that one reasonable line for you. And now you're in a totally different dynamic with your children.
Yeah.
And over time, a couple of small things like this, the shifting of dynamics is you become a new person. Like that's whole new life. That's new world stuff from these very small things where because it's a matter of changing that dynamic. And I want to force the point home because it's like the physics principle of leverage, right? Like I could never lift that thing over there. But if you put it on the end of a lever, I just pull down on this and the lever now does all the work of lifting that heavy thing I could never lift.
Yeah.
So like shifting the dynamic is not at all asking you to take care of every little piece of your life and like move this mountain. As you said, it's just, I do this small thing and it's like fertilizing. Like one of the quotes that I pulled out of that book I'm endlessly talking about, Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Oh, yeah.
It says, the fertilizing force replaces the moving of mountains. She takes a little from here and she adds it there. And that fertilizes things. Things start to change. You take a little bit from over here and you just move a thing. And it reverberates through your life.
How beautiful. I had such a cool moment on Saturday. We were hosting a meetup and a new mom, it was her second time coming. I asked, would you like a coffee? She said yes. I was like, would you like regular creamer or oat creamer? And I was holding the regular creamer. And if I was going to get the oat creamer, I would have to go into the back to a fridge and get the oat creamer. And she said regular. And I was doing something else and I went to go get the creamer. And then she came over and she was like, I'm really sorry. I said that because I just wanted to be really easygoing, but I really do prefer the oat creamer. I think it would be better for my body. I don't really do well with dairy. And I I could have hugged her. I mean, I didn't know her very well, so I didn't. I was just like, thank you so much. Like, I have oat creamer because I want the moms who need oat creamer to get it. So it's not doing me a favor. I mean, it looked like it was doing me a favor because I had the regular creamer there, but I just was so like proud of her. She used her voice. She did the thing. And I happily went and got the creamer that we've bought in case moms need it. So that's the example. Don't be afraid of being that person either. Don't be afraid of doing the thing that's instinctual where you just like do I want to be easy and laid back for everyone else. And then you go, actually, I'm going to suffer for this. I will not feel good. And then say, oh, never mind. I changed my mind. And people will be excited to meet your need. And if they're not, then we'll just move past them. They're not our people.
Like, when they're not, that's like a wonderful opportunity for you to experience how much you don't die from inconveniencing other people, and they don't die and nothing lights on fire and it just feels bad for a little. And sometimes your brain wants to haunt you with it. But like if you can match the reality of the circumstance with that haunted feeling of like, actually that's over. That already happened. They already forgot. It was not a big deal. Almost nothing is a big deal. Like some of this is about right-sizing things in our minds. Like certain things are really big and actually other things are pretty small. And we want to be people who neither make too much of something that's small nor too little of something that's big.
That's right.
And probably you're a pretty trustworthy person who probably doesn't make too little of things that are big. Probably, right? And maybe like look around your life and ponder that in a quiet moment if you need to. But probably like you're not diminishing other people's experiences. Probably you're not that rude.
Probably the only experience you're diminishing is your
is
own.
yours. And also I think that sometimes really little kids are kind of an easier place to practice this because they just don't have the ability to judge you like a grown-up does. So if you're at home all day with your kid, you could start to practice. I would like to tell you that it would be actually great for them if you would start to practice a little bit of being like, yeah, I will get that for you when I'm done. Whoa. Like you could like revolutionize your relationship with your child and practice a thing that would be too scary with grownups. By just being like, I could totally help you right now by jumping up and throwing all the things that are on my lap off of my lap to go do your thing. Or actually, you probably wouldn't even have a tantrum if I made you wait for 2 minutes while I just get to the end of the page I'm reading or finish sending this text or like just
whatever.
The thing that you're doing that doesn't matter. Just go ahead and finish that thing before you go do their thing. Just stretching out there, waiting a little bit. You get to practice getting solid, feeling your shape, feeling your form, feeling your edges, and being like, do I want to do that? Do I want to get up and run around outside with you? Even though I already did that today, like I don't want to do that, but I'd be happy to open the screen door for you. So that you can go run out and I'll watch you through the window. Look, I'll open this window so that we can talk. I don't want to get up, right? Things that are so reasonable, right? But a little bit less of what they want and a little bit more of what you want. And just I mean, you're at home with them all day long playing games anyway. It might as well be some games. And the bonus to that is actually like, that's going to model really great boundaries for them and like show them they're going to learn about the edge of other people just by you recognizing that you do actually have preferences and stating those preferences. Obviously, if you're a parent, there's going to be a lot of you giving up a lot of what you want for what your child needs. A lot.
Right.
And you actually could still have a lot of your preferences all the time. There's a whole bunch of you out there jumping the second your sweet child makes a little noise. And that's sweet of you. That's like, that comes from a really sweet place. But it's actually not always great for them. And you might really be wearing yourself out doing things that they don't need you to do, right? There's so much that they don't need you to do. If you buy your child Velcro shoes and they are 2.5, 100% of your children can put their Velcro shoes on. Basically always. And when it's sweet and lovely for you, put their little shoes on and squeeze their little feet.
And just personality. Let us know. How are your kids about putting on shoes? I found so much personalities involved. And they can.
Yeah.
They can. Will they? Do they? Let us know. Love to hear it.
Shoes are a big one.
Shoes.
Why it's front of mind always.
Brushing teeth.
Sure.
Do they do it? Do they let you do it? What's that like? Tell us.
But just know that like actually your preferences are at play in that dynamic.
Absolutely.
You can want to do things for them all the time. And that can feel really sweet and lovely. And also there can be tons of other things that you're like, I don't want to.
Watch me say no.
Yeah.
It's great.
Could be an easy way to practice.
Perfect. Okay, you guys are great. We'd love to do this alongside you. Actually, we are people who are growing in the realm of using our voices and communicating our needs. And we'd love to hear how it's going for you. And if you want to chat with us about it, we do lead calls in Very Good Mothers Club in the online community, and we could really talk this through. And you could bring situations. You could tell us what's going on. You'd be like, poll the crowd. What would you guys do? It can be a big think tank of how to respond. The moms in there are amazing, and we would love to have you in there too. Okay.
So the link for that is in the show notes. And also, if you have any thoughts about this episode that you want to share, if you have any questions, our podcast email is verygoodoughpod@gmail.com.
This is such a pretty ring.
Thank you. That's my grandmother's.
Oh, I love it. Okay, guys, you're the best. Thanks for being here. See you soon. Bye.